Welcome back to the Glow Girl podcast. I am Kyra, and today I am joined by Lisha Davidovits. Yes!
Hey, you got it!
By now, everybody out here knows how much I celebrate when I pronounce a name correctly. Because given my name is Kyra, but most people always call me Kira. So I am very, I always want to make sure that I'm pronouncing someone's name correctly. So Lisha, welcome to the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and such a privilege as well. I love Glow Up Girl. I love your site, your whole message, everything. I'm a fan.
So excited. Well, let's go ahead and dive in because we are talking about living in authenticity. Living in authenticity today. And I am very excited about that topic. And I love the work that you do to help women and to help people on their journeys there. So let's just start with telling the audience about you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, as you mentioned, my name is Lisha. I am a success coach for high achieving millennials, particularly ones that are going through points of transition, such as getting married, having your first child, getting into a more senior role in your profession. So it's something where you're like stepping into an uncomfortable situation. You have a history of success, bam, nailed it. And now you're looking at this thing and going, oh boy, this is interesting. What am I going to do? Do I have what it takes? You're waking up at 3 a.m. with the night sweats or, just all this anxiety. So that's where I come in to say, hey, I got you. Let's, unpack what's going on here, set you up, not just for the success that you want, but for going even beyond what you imagine being possible by tapping into that authenticity, the best parts of you, what makes you you, and using that to leverage even greater success plus happiness on top of it.
Yes. And that is so key. I love what you said about tapping into those things that make you like who you are. That is so important for women. I just get really excited about that. I feel like because in a world where people are always being judged against someone else or people are always comparing themselves to what someone else has, it is so important for people to look inside and say, these are the things that make me amazing as a woman, as a person, and let those things shine. So that's just, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And often too, we don't even recognize in ourselves what those things are, what our gifts are, because it's so concealed under what we think it needs to be, or others tell us it should be, or this is what's important. So sometimes it just takes another person to help us see ourselves differently and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is a value of mine. That is me. I didn't even realize it. I've got this part of me that I can bring out even more. It's like turning the volume up in some areas and turning it down in other areas and using that to bring yourself closer to that fulfillment and that beautiful, rich space.
Yes. So let's go ahead. And move into talking about living in authenticity. So I know it may be a basic question, but let's talk about what that looks like.
So, in my growing up, I was always really into connections with people. I loved people and wanted to, be around them. And of course, if you want to be around people, you want to be someone that people want to be with, where there's love and acceptance. And so with that lens, I was sometimes doing things as I thought would be pleasing to others, behaving certain ways, being, kind of that good girl. I was very much like good girl conditioning. Yeah, that's going to make me more accepted by, people who are teachers and parents and all of that. When I was growing up, I was very loved, but I would hear oh, you're so ladylike, you're so, demure and this and that. And so I was like, okay, that's good. I need to be more of that. So I was being more of what I was praised for, being a good student, being intelligent, being a high achiever. So then I fed into what I was getting from others. And as a result, over time, I just became more and more of what I saw as this perfect person in the eyes of society. And I didn't even date in high school because I was like, well, I don't want to be seen as promiscuous and someone that's fooling around with guys because, people talk smack about those girls. I need to be like accepted and loved. So I'm going to, just be here. But, I was interested in guys, and I realized over time, I was like, just kind of keeping parts of myself down for the sake of being accepted by others. And so, the first thing is to just have awareness. Sometimes you reach a critical point where you say, like, you know what, I'm just not feeling like I'm me. I feel like I'm a chameleon. I'm a performer here. And there's something that just doesn't feel right. And so then once I got into college and I was with other friends and exposed to different things, I started to, look at, okay, what are some of the other layers? What are some of the other parts of me? What can I turn the dial up on? And with time, with confidence, with comfort, then, there were people who saw glimpses of me and they were like, hey, you know what? I see you got a little, sexiness in you. I see the way you dance and like, that's kind of cool. Why don't you wear something that's like more figure flattering? You've got a great figure. I'd be wearing, loose stuff because I didn't want to be wearing like super tight, hoochie mama stuff. So, that's like the extreme, but I was like, no, I'm going to be proper. And so then, it was people who were like, hey, have you thought about this or, what about that? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that. And once I was on my own and out of the shadow of, parents approving or disapproving, I was like, okay, I'm going to step into that more. I'm going to start to let my guard down. I'm going to start to let more of what wants to come out. Be with people who are going to kind of pull that out. There were bad boys, and the bad boys there were helping me to take more risk. They were the ones that were the risk takers that didn't follow the rules. And I needed that in order to give myself permission to not be so conservative and so in this box. And man, it was so liberating. It just made me feel so much more alive. And I'm like, this is me. The shell has been like taken off and there's no stopping me now. And I was actually, it was great. And I was in a situation later on where people would have expectations of like, hey, this workplace is more conservative. You need to wear power suits. In the past, I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever it takes, I'll just wear that. I'll be who you want me to be. And I was like, you know what? Not a good cultural fit. That's not me. I'm not going back in my box. I finally like burst out of that.
I love that. I think that everything that you said is so true, so very true. And I think that I definitely agree with you on when you grow up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the good girl. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And so you just sort of, you live in that box. And you are in a box. And I love that you experience, like you went through all like the stages of finding like who you were as a person, and then sort of being firm in that and saying, you know what? No, if I have to wear this at your job, this is not a good fit for me. And I think that's really important for people to understand, especially when you are living in authenticity.
Absolutely. And even in the workplace, it wasn't about someone saying, wear this or don't wear this. It was about someone asking me to be something that conformed to what they wanted, to their expectations. And that was the big red flag of like, this is me. I am professional. I do exceptional work. I have my gifts. And you can either see that and embrace that, because I do. I love myself for who I've discovered myself to be. And those that can't, then, those are not the right people. And it made decisions and relationships so much easier. And just, going through life, I had that clear compass, which, then was thrown off once I became a parent. And I'm like, oh, wait, I have to reinvent myself. Now I'm a mom. Who am I going to be when everyone's telling me like, parent this way, parent that way? So, but it was great because that journey that led up to that was my training ground to remind me like, I need to figure out who I am independent and what others give input on and stay clear to that. And then I can own it and feel good about my decisions because they're aligned with my authenticity rather than external expectations.
Exactly. And so what type of questions, because you mentioned, being a chameleon, and a lot of us have sort of played that role where you can fit in with anybody, you can conform to what the group is doing or what people think that your role should be in that group. What questions should someone start to ask themselves if they, someone's listening today and they're like, you know what? I think that she's describing me. And I'd like to be able to figure out what core values are mine? What sets me apart? So where would you say is a good place to start, and what questions should someone ask themselves?
Yeah, it starts in your stomach, in your gut of like,
Mhm.
when you're with a group of people, are you feeling like, okay, there's some dissonance here. I don't, I feel like I'm having to try, or there's some effort here, or I'm, talking in a way that I don't normally talk. I'm doing things that I don't normally do. That tells you something is out of alignment. So that's
Mhm.
one of the first things to look for when you are with those people where you just feel like it's in flow and you could be yourself and do whatever, bring out, just any part of yourself, and people would accept that or embrace that. That's where to look at your authenticity coming up. And so you can also reflect back on that and think about like a peak experience when you were with other people having the time of your life. There was no self management, no like, oh, maybe I should be doing this instead, or talking this way instead, or oh, I think I need to be a little bit more philosophical. Whenever it's like more of this, more of that, rather than just you being you, that's a sign that there's something off. So think about an experience
Mhm.
where you were just totally in flow, let it all hang out, it's all there, and you can just enjoy the experience rather than focusing on how you're coming across. That tells you this is who I am. Look for those qualities and know like that's who I am.
Mhm.
What values does that align with? Who's that allowing me to be in other
Mhm.
situations? Who is that not allowing me to be?
So, what do you say to someone who is? So we're gonna spin it on relationships because say a person, woman is married or has a long term relationship with a partner, spouse, whatever. What happens when, because sometimes people don't get to their true selves until later in life. And a lot of times, obviously, people may already have relationships that are in place, and when we will, speak to one that is based on, more of a love relationship versus a friendship. In this situation, what tips or advice would you give them? Because obviously, we all know that people that have been together for a long time, and you've been this certain way, but now
Yeah.
you're going down this road of discovery and this journey to find who you truly are. It can be difficult for their partners.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. When there is a change and you're kind of coming into yourself differently, then it can be a challenge. That's one of the reasons why people often recommend that you don't get married until like late 20s, because it takes that time to kind of have your journey, discover who you are, because otherwise you're showing up as someone else, attracting someone for those qualities. Maybe it's
Mhm.
that you're more passive, and someone who has a stronger personality is like, oh, I like passive. And then later on in life, you become a little bit more assertive and you're setting boundaries for yourself. And that person's like, wait, what happened to the easy, chill person that went along with everything? Like, this isn't cool. So all of a sudden, like,
Right.
then they feel like, how do I interact with this dynamic?
Mhm.
So that's where it's really important to connect at a very grounded level in saying like, this is the part of me that I want to turn the dial up on. Be more transparent
Mhm.
and ask for them to support you in that and say, you know what, like this is like I think about, my husband and I am very much like, more of like a pleaser. And, I told you I want to connect with people. And so
Mhm.
when we would
Mhm.
host people, I'd be going like all out with everything. But he would see, as soon as I would get stressed out, but it was great because I was doing everything. He's like, yeah, let's have this party. And like, can you help with this? It's too much for me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. And I would just do it and push through. And over time, I was like, I'm stressing myself out. I feel like this is more than I need to have on me. So I started
Mhm.
talking to him about that and saying like, I need more support from you. And it wasn't that he wasn't willing to give it. It was just that if I was doing everything, he's like, oh, this is a good deal for me. So,
Exactly.
I'm like, this is what I need. So for it kind of starts with this is what I'm feeling, this is
Mhm.
what I need, and will you help me?
Mhm.
Because as long as this, you're not telling, so it's like if you're coming out of yourself and being like, yeah, this is who I am, this is what I need. Now, okay, because I'm this way, you need to be this way. All of a sudden it can
Right.
shift and you're like, now you change. I'm changing, you change. And they're like, oh no, I'm
Exactly.
already.
They're like, you know what? You can change. Be by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if it's like, will you help me? Well, it's like, If it
Yeah.
is, more responsibilities around the house, like, hey, this is what I want. Will you help me with this? Or I, want to change these things in my lives, and this is
Mhm.
what I need. Like, how can we work together? How can you
Right.
support me? So it becomes part of the relationship rather than one versus the other, and then there's opposition.
I like that. I think that that is important. That's a great answer, and I agree. I laughed when you said, people should get married into their late 20s. I actually always say, don't get married until you're like 35.
Oh, even better. Yes.
I just joke because I'm like, because you're right. Like you're dating the representative for like the first, like maybe year, almost 6 months or whatever. You're dating that representative, and then when the true people start to show up, then you're like, oh, okay, that's who you are. And, and definitely sort of when you're discovering or growing in yourself and on your own journey. Like I got married at 28, but as I got older, by the time I was like 35, I was like, oh, like now I fully know like who I am, what I bring to this relationship. And, and while it was like growing up together, in the marriage, but I always tell people that like anybody that I know is younger, I'm like, just make sure you know who you are first.
Right, exactly.
Make sure you can stand on your own without that person having to give or provide so much validation to who you think you are, right? So
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so that, it feels like natural and effortless where you're not having to, keep up a front of being like,
Mhm.
the perfect housewife or, something like that. It was one of those things where it helped so much with my husband. I made it clear right off the bat. This is who I want to be as a partner with you. This is
Mhm.
who I want to be as a mother if we have children, and just, lay it all out there.
Yeah.
And I realized at that time that if he accepted it, great. And if he didn't, then that was okay because I was being honest. It
Mhm.
wouldn't serve me well to tell him what I thought he wanted to hear.
Right.
And that's how I knew I found the right person. But
Yeah.
people evolve and the partner evolves too. Who knows? You coming out and
Mhm.
saying, I'm feeling more of this might give your partner permission to say what they have had a hard time saying. We're like,
Mhm.
hey, you know what? Like, I actually was going to tell you I needed you to, step up and do more instead of being as passive. This is great. Maybe it's a good thing. Don't assume
Yeah.
that you stepping into more of yourself is going to be something that's going to compromise. It could
Mhm.
strengthen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I do think, like you said, it's just that you have to be honest. It's
Yeah.
being open and sharing your feelings, and also listening and not expecting that person, not telling, telling someone and hoping that they have an open mind and an open heart to you and that they can receive that. And it's also you being able to receive what they have to say back to you as well. So I agree with you. It's
Yeah.
definitely a two-way street there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it all starts with self love, self acceptance. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you fully embrace who you are, then it's easy to step into that and, really say, hey, this is me. And I want to honor it in myself and then ask others to honor it as well.
Yes, love that, love that. So, what are some ways that you say? What are some ways that people can live in their authenticity?
The first thing is to just acknowledge, accept, this is who I am. And even if that's different from others that like that's you. And so
Mhm.
to say, like, this is me, and to, accept that. And then I would say, get curious about it is, this is a part of me. How do I want to express that? How do I want to show up in the world? What does who I am say about the life that I want to live? And kind
Mhm.
of looking to, it can help to look into the future and look at kind of yourself as the elder, wiser self, looking back on your life. How would you want to say a healthy mind and body? How you lived? Were you living fully into yourself? What did that look like? How was that coming across? What did that mean about how you were interacting with others? How you were being in your roles as a partner or as a parent or as a son or a daughter? So really kind of connecting with those values, what it says about your essence. A thing too to help people reconnect if they're like, I don't know, I've just like, morphed myself so much, I don't even know who I am.
Mhm.
Look back at a childhood picture from like age 14 or younger, where it's this picture that just like shows you alive and thriving and having this like innocence and beauty that you can see in yourself. Look at that picture and see the essence of who you are. So many people that I've talked to have done that, and they're like, "You know what? I just had a conversation with someone who was, said like, I saw a picture where I was on my tricycle and I totally forgot. I had so much fun on that tricycle. I forgot I love to feel the wind in my hair and just
No.
let it be free." He's like, "I haven't felt like that in years, but that was me loving life, being free. Now I've become like uptight and rigid." They're like, "I need to be free." And so then we worked that in, and it's like, it was great. It was liberating for them to reconnect with that. So
Those are all really good. It was really good advice and
thank
tips
you.
to help people. So let's talk about, obviously you have those great tips, but what's working with you like? Can you talk about some of your programs that you offer?
Sure. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I work with clients one on one or in small groups. And
Mhm.
with clients, I'm a CTI trained coach, Coactive Training Institute, also positive intelligence for strengthening mental fitness. So I work with clients on taking them from where they are to where they want to be, either in a group capacity or one on one capacity, typically a couple times a month. And that gives them a chance to be coached on a topic that they bring, where I'm holding them as naturally creative, resourceful, whole. There's no one that I'm looking at where I'm like, "Okay, you're broken. We're going to fix you." There's no fixing. It's taking you,
Mhm.
from your present to your forward around certain goals that you really, really want. And holding the client as they have all the answers. I'm just there to shine the light, to ask questions, to bring things to the surface that bubble up, to kind of know where to poke around, to have them have these greater awarenesses of who they are, who they want to be, and then forwarding the action, deepening the learning that comes during the session, between the sessions. So there's always accountability there too. A lot of clients love that part where, they're like, "I want to do this, but I just haven't been able to do it." So there's the accountability component. And that's where
Mhm.
the mental fitness comes in. You tell someone, "Okay, you're going to go run a marathon. That's great. You're excited to do it. All right, you're finally going to do it. You're committed." They come back the next session. "So how'd it go?" "Oh, I ran around the block." "What happened?" "I got in my head." And so then,
Right.
it's like getting in your head. You can want to do it. You can have that desire. The
Mhm.
fire can be, fans or the flames are fanned. But sometimes we get in our heads with self-doubt, limiting belief.
Right.
So that mental fitness strengthens the right region of the brain and quiets the left region. There's actually neurological evidence on it. And I work with clients on helping them have that mental strength so they can get over that big mountain and instead it feels like a hill. They're gaining the mental strength just like you would gain the physical strength to run that marathon. Think
Mhm.
about athletes where, there's just amazing athletes and they're in the game and they choke. It's not that they don't have the ability, it's not that they don't
Mhm.
have the determination, the desire. It's that they get inside their heads, and that really holds
Right.
us back. So that's a really big component that I bring as well into the coaching.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I mean, definitely think that being mentally strong is so important because, I mean, just in everyday life, I mean, you just, when you're mentally tough and you are mentally strong, I mean, I think that that is just so important in just your day-to-day life, whether you're on your job, or you're just a parent, especially when you look at the times that we're, currently living in a pandemic. And I think that a lot of people, have either shown to be very mentally strong, or a lot of people have either shown to not necessarily be. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's so true. And that mental strength is not just about like having convictions and determination.
mhm,
It's also the strength to shift into curiosity, patience, empathy, to know how
mhm,
to get
mhm,
into a more grounded place. So you have a
yeah,
challenge that's coming up, it's not going to hijack you or trigger you. You
yeah,
are mentally fit to be able to shift to the right region of the brain where there's more openness, laser focused
mhm.
action, and that, real that clarity that's important.
Yes, yeah. And I love that because I definitely probably over the last year just sort of realized that, a lot of people may be lacking, the ability to show empathy to others. And I never really thought about it because I mean, it's something that comes easy to me, and of course, like when somebody tells me a story and I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe that, that happened to you or whatever. But then there are people who are like, I mean, I don't know, it didn't happen to me. I mean, I don't know how they feel. And I'm like, how can you say that?
Yes,
But I guess,
exactly.
I guess for some, some people have to work harder at that. But I think with something like you teach, I mean, you coaching, that it is something, it can be learned. And I think a lot of times people think like just using empathy as an example, like, well, I mean, I'll never know how somebody else feels. But I think that if you opened your mind in your heart to the being able to, then I think that is still something that you could open your eyes and maybe perhaps feel feel what
Yes,
somebody
yes.
else feels. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It even comes with like, how can I help you? What do you need? Rather than going
Mhm.
straight to problem solving and like, oh, this is going on. Here are 3 steps you can take. And maybe be the
Yes.
one to listen.
Yeah.
The biggest thing though, like, especially for women, yeah, we've got a lot of empathy for others, but why do we beat ourselves up? Where's that
Mhm.
empathy for ourselves?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where it can be a challenge. I'm loving everyone. I'm hearing you. I'm feeling you. And I'm going to go home and beat myself up for not saying the right things or doing the right things.
Yeah.
Neither
Yeah.
enough. So empathy
Yeah.
for self is just as, if
Yeah.
not more important
Yes.
than the
Oh,
more
yeah.
empathy you are.
Very true. I mean, because we definitely are not extending grace to ourselves. Period. Like we're, like you said, oh, I didn't finish that today, and oh my God, I was supposed to be finished with that thing like 2 weeks ago, and you took off Saturday. How dare you take off Saturday? So it is definitely extending that same grace and empathy for ourselves, ladies. If you're listening out there,
Yeah.
be
Talk to
kind.
yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
Yes, yeah. Talk to yourself the way that you would want the most loving, kind person on earth to talk to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and reflect those words back of like, hey, yeah, it's been a hard day. That's okay. You take a nice bath and you lie down and relax.
Yeah, exactly. I know that's what I talk about. I started to tell myself, girl, it's okay if you don't want to work on Sunday.
Yeah.
Just lie there and watch TV. It's okay.
It's self-care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, well, now we're gonna move into the part of the show that I really enjoy, which is 5 things. So I'll ask you 5 questions. It helps the audience to understand the inner workings of Lisha's mind.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
how do you start the day?
I start the day by brushing my teeth is a really important part of my day. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's self-care. I'm doing something that takes care of myself. I feel clean. I like to feel clean. So that's like a really important thing. If I get distracted and I haven't brushed, I keep thinking, oh, I need to brush my teeth. So
Mm-hmm.
brushing teeth or making the bed if my husband's not still sleeping or hasn't already made it.
Mm-hmm.
Starting your day with accomplishments, that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. It's like I have done something, I have shown up, it's taking those actions, and then that sets the whole precedent.
I like that. I like that. What's one goal that you set for yourself or for your family or business in 2021?
My goal is to keep taking bold action and to just go forward and just like not even have a comfort zone to get out of. It's like there's no zone. Anything is fair game, and to just go for it and not overthink it, not let my perfectionist catch me where like, oh, how do you think you can do this? If you can't do it just right, then don't bother doing it. And so
Right.
it's just to kind of, give myself permission to
Yes.
sometimes fail, because for me, fail
Mhm.
is feeling alive in life. And when I look at
Mhm.
it that way, it's just living. It's just
Yeah.
living bigger and bigger into what brings me fulfillment, joy, resonance.
Like that a lot. What's your favorite way to unwind?
My favorite way is to just like have some time hanging out with my husband and kids, maybe cuddling and watching a movie or reading
Mhm.
books, and just that quiet quality time with them where there's like love and cuddles and that, yeah, that yumminess.
I like it. I like it. What's one thing in your business that you're excited about this year?
I feel excited about, everything. This year has started out so great. Being able to share what I'm passionate about, try to
Mhm.
bring value, insight, motivation to others through a number of podcasts that I've done. I've done some offsites for companies. I have some new clients that I'm really excited to work with. So as long as I am giving and helping to hopefully improve people's lives in some way, then,
Mhm.
I'm just so overjoyed. So the more that I can do that, the better it's going to be. And I am committed to making that happen.
Awesome. And finally, how do you end the day?
Reflection. I like to take time to kind of reflect,
Mhm.
process the day, think about what I'm grateful for, kind of end the night with that peace of mind, gratitude. And sometimes too, I'll just do some like, mini meditations
Mhm.
as I'm relaxing so I can quiet my mind. And that puts me into a more restful energy and emotional state to have a more restful sleep.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, can you tell the audience how they can find you online or social in case they want to connect to you?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. So my website is coachlisha.com. It's Lisha. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at coach_Lisha. I have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Coach Lisha, and a YouTube channel, Coach Lisha. And I have episodes each week for an extra dose of love from Lisha.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you, Lisha. This has been so great. Thank you for joining me again. I'm glad that you stopped by, and you can always stop by in the future if you want to share something with the audience.
Thank you. I would love to. And I appreciate the generous offer.
Awesome. Well, much success to you in 2021. It sounds like you have a lot going on and a lot to be excited for. And I look forward to hearing more about your successes this year.
Great. Thank you. And all the best to you as well. You have such a great, glow up girl group and mission and, everything that you offer is such a gift.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.